Welcome in, guys, and I am back to talk about the Green Bay Packers, the Cheeseheads, for 2025. Going into this offseason, obviously the biggest trade they did this offseason for the Packers was acquiring and bringing in Micah Parsons, and also when you trade away first round pick for Micah Parsons, so Kenny Clark could go the other way, which again was again a must for this Packers defense. Again, you probably think Micah Parsons in 2020 didn't do too well, but you're looking at the Packers. I mean, again, even with Micah Parsons, they didn't do too bad, and I'm going to really talk about that in a minute. Departure before the season, though. Uh, Corey Baltine departed at cornerback to the Colts. Tyler Davis, he departed for the Patriots at tight end. Then you're looking at offensive tackle Andre Dillon, departed Dillard departed for the 49ers, and AJ Dillon, running back, went to the Philadelphia Eagles, and then you also the additions that you bring in. You're adding guys like Trayvon Diggs as well from the Cowboys. So you got Trayvon Diggs and Mike Parsons coming in. Draft wise, again they drafted Matthew Golden, who again he was the first. That was the first time that the Packers have drafted a wide receiver in the first round since 2002. Then they addressed the offensive tackle with Anton Belton, Savon Williams, Byron Sorrell, defensive end from Texas. So what I like keeping the draft approach is that the Packers are addressing their needs. They needed a wide receiver and they got Matthew Golden. They needed a offensive tackle. They addressed that with Anthony Belton. They got Savon Williams, a wide receiver from TCU. Like I said, Byron Sorrell from Texas, defensive end. Colin Oliver from Oklahoma State, linebacker. So again, you're beefing up that offensive line and weapons for Jordan Love. Warren Brisson, defensive tackle from Georgia, and then Micah Robinson, cornerback at Tulane. And then you traded away a pick to the Titans, and then you got John Williams, offensive tackle from Cincinnati. And then you look at the schedule. You looked at the schedule for the Packers. At first week, they were at home to the Lions. We were shit. We were ultimately a dumpster fire in that game when the Packers faced the Lions. The Packers won at home 27-13. Then you're looking at really started the season here for the Packers. They're 2-0. They're beating the Commanders and the Lions, two contending, especially two teams that are going to be contending for a playoff push. Was hoping anyway, especially me as a Lions fan, was hoping that us and the Commanders, we don't want to talk about it. And then you had they lost to the Skid Marks. Again, a Skid Mark team that had a 40-year-old Joe Flacco at quarterback. Then they tied a game with the Cowboys going to week 5. And then you're looking at week 6 and 7, like week 6 and 7 and 8, they got 3 wins in a row. They lost to the Panthers and the Eagles, who again Eagles defending champions, but Panthers were doing pretty good stuff in the year. And then they get great wins on the road against the Giants and against the Giants, and then they beat the Vikings at home. They beat the Lions on the road. Don't want to talk about it. They beat Bears football at Lambeau Field. And then they lose, and then after that Bears win on week 14, they lose to the Broncos on the road, 34-26. They lose in overtime to Bears football at Soldier Field, and then they lose to the Ravens, who had really nothing to play for at that point, 41-24 at home. And in the last game, the Vikings beat the fucking Packers 16-3. Cap space going into the 2026 offseason, they've got about 17 million in dead cap space, so you're way over the cap salary. I know the whole cap space doesn't mean a lot to. It doesn't mean as what it should do. Like again, there's ways to get around it. You trade away a couple of people, you trade away a couple of draft picks, but yeah, you're 17 million over the cap space. So again, yeah, looking at also in the season, you had Jordan Love, who only had 323 passing yards. No, that's not an that's not an error. 323 passing yards for a supposed elite level quarterback in the Jordan Love. I like Jordan Love. I think he's a good quarterback, but he only threw for 323 passing yards. And then you had Josh Jacobs, who again, he was a fantastic running back. He's probably one of, like behind Derrick Henry, he's probably the second best running back in this league. He had 55 rushing yards this season. 55 rushing yards. So ultimately, and then you had Matthew Golden in his rookie year, 14 receiving yards. He wasn't really pulling up trees, Matthew Golden either, and you had Jalen Reed, who wasn't doing shit either. Basically, their offense stunk all year. And we're going to go into it now, but points for, they were 16th in the league. Their offense was 16th in the league. Their defense wasn't too good either, even with the additions of Micah Parsons. You think, oh, Micah Parsons coming, you think, great, you're definitely going to be in the top 5 for your best defense, right? Wrong. They were 11th in points against, so they had the 11th best defense in the league. And again, you're looking at, especially what do they need to improve on. They need some more additions in the secondary. They need a cornerback. They need some more additions on that secondary. Also, they need to beef up that offensive line. I think that offensive line is very mid, and I think it has to be addressed more in the off season and in the draft. You got to move. Obviously, with you being able to sell cap, that's going to be a hard thing. But you can move some people around, and that isn't going to be much of a problem. And see what you can do in the draft. They also need some more additions. I think they need to get a new offensive coordinator. Adam Stefanich is just, he sucks as an offensive coordinator. You're having guys like Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs, and they're only having like 55 rushing yards and 323 passing yards. That means that your offensive coordinator fucking sucks and he needs to be moved on. But you're going to keep him anyway, because I haven't heard that they're going to hire anybody else. But ultimately, you've got some pressure's got to go on the GM. Brian Gunners, the GM. He's been the GM for the Packers since 2018, so he's had enough time here to again get a replacement for Aaron Rodgers, which he did in Jordan Love. And again, I do want to say before people I know that Jordan Love was injured for a bit of the season, and they had Malik Willis in there, and he was a good standby. But even with Malik Willis being there, they still wasn't that good. Offensively, they stunk. And you're looking at a roster with Jaden Reed, and you're looking at Josh Jacobs and Matthew Golden. And a quarterback of the caliber of a Jordan Love. You're kind of thinking these should be at least contending for a championship game at least. And they were second in their division. They was 9-7-1. How the fuck did they win 9 games? Again, that's down to the whole tush push and the field goals they was doing. They was playing Bears football in Green Bay. But yeah, looking at the draft here, they don't have a first round pick, which is really the problem, because again they went all in for Micah Parsons last season. So they don't have a first round pick. That Dallas had their first round pick, which is 20th overall. So they have the picks they have. They have a second round pick, a third round pick, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth. They have three seventh round picks. So again, you could find somebody in there like a hidden gem that could maybe do some bits. But ultimately, they need some more additions on that offensive line. They need some more They need to beef up that offensive line. Address the defense again this year till you get it right. And then both sides of the ball, tight end, wide receiver, that has to be addressed. Matthew Golden wasn't pulling up trees last year. So there's quite a bit to do here, I think, in Green Bay before you can say that they're having a championship window. I know a lot of people before the season were saying, oh, Green Bay, championship winning contending season. I don't think they're ready for a championship I don't think they're ready for that championship window just yet. I think you've got to address your defense. Like my Detroit Lions. I know I'm biased, we're going to win the Super Bowl, but we had a championship window in 2024. And I'm not going to talk about the Lions too much, but if we fixed the defense and the offensive line in 2024, we could have been facing the Eagles or the Chiefs in 2024 and potentially winning a Super Bowl. But for the Packers, they need a new offensive coordinator. They need to absolutely beef up that defense. And I forgot about this. I'm gonna talk about it real quick. They lost their defensive coordinator in Jeff Hadley. Jeff Hadley departed to become the new head coach of the Dolphins. So again, good luck for the Dolphins, I guess. But yeah, that's my review, guys.